Okay, my name's Dan and I'm an addict. Yeah, my name's Dan and I'm an addict. Um, yeah, I just want to thank Ash for asking me to come along and share. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to give service back to Cocaine Anonymous. Yeah, I think what I want to start with is just saying if anyone's new in the room and if you think these lot are all a bit happy, clappy, and it's all a little bit weird, and you're really baffled about what's going on in here, then you're in the right place. Because I felt exactly the same way that you did when I was first in these meetings, mate. In fact, I thought that half of you were still using. Um, I thought some of you were, trying to sell me on some sort of fucking program. I thought it was a sales thing and you guys were going to earn loads of money out of me and all this. I was so fucking paranoid when I came in and I felt very, very vulnerable, right, when I was in here. And the thing about when I feel vulnerable is I get quite angry. I don't like feeling like that. So I'm in these meetings and I'm sitting here with a cap on and I'm flicking through the screen and I'm going, yeah, you're a fucking liar. Yeah, you're still using you. The Ash is way too fucking happy. There's no way he does all that in recovery. No way. And I'm pointing out people and I'm just judging them and judging them. Um, and I didn't hear nothing for about 2 months, but I was lucky to come into recovery during COVID, right? So when I came in, I'd tried recovery before and life always got in the way. I went to an AA meeting, they told me to do some stuff and I thought I ain't got fucking time for that. And I left and I never came back, you know what I mean? And it weren't until I came here, I started to realize that you have to do stuff to recover. Yeah, you have to. But I wouldn't have known that if I weren't coming to these meetings every single week. I kept coming along and I thought that these were going to keep me sober. But what I've learned is that the meetings are a bridge to a sponsor, and the sponsor is a bridge to the big book, and the big book is a bridge to the 12 steps. And the 12 steps are a bridge to a spiritual awakening. Now, I never knew that at the time. I just thought I could come here, eat your biscuits and fuck off and be all right. And that would be all right, but that weren't the case. And, I was, I'm going to talk a little bit about where I was, but as a youngster, I was full of fear all the time. I really was. I know it's not everyone's story, but I was full of fear. I had a stepdad, like my dad left at a young age. I had a stepdad come into the home. He was very violently abusive. He was an alcoholic, nicest guy in the world, proper Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was a really nice guy, but when he drank, he was a horrible person. And the way that I dealt with that is I used to go out on the streets and I'd run about with all my pals and I'd tell them how great my life was and that my dad was a businessman and I'd tell them all these lies because I thought it was weak to tell them the truth. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want them to know what I was struggling with at home. And as a result of that, I got involved with a lot of lads that I shouldn't have. And I got involved with stuff that I didn't want to do because I wanted these lads to fucking like me. You know what I mean? And that was my first introduction to drugs and alcohol because, I'm 11 years old. I'm around the back of the shops. They're all passing about a bit of coke on the mirror and I want to be included. These guys are 15, 16 years old. And I'd like to say it was, all glamorous and they weren't. It was a bottle of white lightning and it was some powder on a mirror that they had and they were passing it round. And I said, "Giss a bit of that." And I had a bit of the white lightning and I had this bit of powder. And I remember for the first time in my life, I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt all right. And there was two girls there that were about 15, 16. I don't talk to women, by the way, because I'm too fucking scared. And all of a sudden, I'm telling them I'm going to take them back to my house, 11 years old, me little plonker. I'm going to take you back and I'm going to give you all this with all my confidence and that. And I woke up the next day and I just thought, this gives me everything that I need. It's like a fucking superpower, And I thought that everyone talked about drugs in a bad way because it was a secret that they didn't want me to know. Do you know what I mean? And I remember that day making a decision that I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. It gave me everything that I needed. It gave me confidence. It made me feel okay. It was like there was a hole in my soul my whole life before that, and drugs filled it for a while. It did. You know what I mean? I had some really good times. I'd done the club scene. I had loads of parties. I had loads of friends. I had, it was fucking like everyone was doing it with me, and it was all fucking wicked. You know what I mean? But there was consequences that I didn't spot. I'd get into fights and I'd get into trouble and I'd end up in police cells. And I just thought because everyone around my area was doing that, boys will be boys. It's just part of what people do. They go through this stuff. But when you fast forward the tape 10 years and your mates have got girlfriends, they're not coming out with you anymore, and mate, he's got the career of his dreams and he's traveling the world, and you got all your friends that are flying off and they're living life, and you're still doing that same shit, ending up in police cells, in institutions, in fucking anger management classes. You can't hold relationships together. Your fucking work life's falling apart. And you're doing that over and over again for years. You've got to sort of work out it ain't fucking working anymore. Do you know what I mean? And but I would fool myself into the fact that it was. I would go to bed having panic attacks with my heart going so bad that I thought I was going to fucking die. And the next day by 11 o'clock, I'm thinking I can't pick up again. I wrote a letter to my wife, put it under her pillow, saying, I love you. And because I thought I was going to die that night. And then I'm pulling it out in the morning and going to use again. It's complete fucking powerlessness. And I met a really good girl. And she stuck by me through prisons and really tried to get me help and stuff. And when she left me, I went right off the rails, and I ended up in institutions. And when I was in there, I was going to really try and get my life together and sort it out and stop this shit. And I did. I was removed from society. I got educated in there. I decided that I was going to get a job and all this stuff. I was going to be a painter and decorator and start my own business. And the day I got out on the train home with my release fund, there was a guy coming down the train with a cart, and he was giving out, refreshments, he was saying. And I saw a couple of beers on the cart, and I thought, you know what, it's been a year and a bit. I'll just have one. But what I've come to learn is I've never had one of anything in my entire life. That's my step one. Never. It don't matter if it's alcohol, don't matter if it's drugs, it doesn't matter if it's sexual situations, doesn't matter if it's biscuits, it doesn't matter if it's anything that makes me feel better, I'll smash the arse out of it. It's what I've always been like. It's all or nothing. So, I couldn't understand why I'd pick up a drink on a Friday and I weren't coming back till Tuesday the next week. And, I decided to move away from the area and move to Devon. And I thought that everyone else was the problem there. And I moved out here. I got married to my wife at the time. And I thought if I just move away from the area, I'll be all right. I've got a chance of this. I can be a husband. And my missus found out the day she arrived that she was pregnant. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be a father as well. I've got to get my act together. And I did for a while, cleaned up for about 6 months. I got myself a job, this, that, and the other. But my wife called me up one day in hysterics, and when I went back, we took her to the hospital, and she'd miscarried the baby. And the reason why I explain this is because when people, it talks about it in the book, we get tight at exactly the wrong moments, right? And the times that I really shouldn't fucking drink and use, like it's a funeral, or your missus is going through something like that, or they just your mum's outside just saying, please today, just fucking just for today, for me, darling, please don't drink and use today. And I'd fucking drink and use. And I couldn't understand it. I just could not understand the reason why I couldn't hold it together for the people that I loved. I just couldn't hold it together. And the people that I love become pawns in it, because what I would do is I would start using them and manipulating them and taking from them and stealing from them. And they didn't understand why someone that thought they loved them were taking from them all the time. They couldn't understand that. They didn't know what this illness was. And, I didn't understand it either. So I had a lot of self-hatred, and I used to talk to myself in disgusting ways. And my self-esteem was on the floor. And then when I go out with my mates, I'll be like, yeah, I'm all right, mate. How you doing, guys? Yeah, you all right? And deep down, I'm fucking dying inside. Do you know what I mean? I'm dying inside every day. You see the tears behind my eyes while I'm sitting there smiling. You can see the pain behind the eyes, and I was there. And I didn't know I was ever going to get out of that. And I did it for 22 years. In, out, shake it all about. Try my way. Go to the gym 6 days a week. Let's go to fucking wellness classes. Let's go to, just lock me up. I'll go and stay at my uncle's, or I'll go and stay here, or I'll move there. But what I didn't realise, this whole problem is wherever I went, the problem was, because the problem was me. I thought the problem was the drinking and using, but the problem was Dan. And Dan's still, his biggest problem today is Dan. I can tell you that now. I'm not too problematic to people around me now, but I'm definitely problematic to myself. You know what I mean? I had no self-awareness at all. I'm the sort of guy that would smash through people's lives. I'd look around and I'd go, who made this fucking mess? Do you know what I mean? I had no idea what I was doing or any conception of what I was doing at that time. And it wasn't until the 3rd of April 2020 when I woke up in the room that's literally next door to me. And I remember waking up that morning and I didn't have anyone else to blame. I had no more I wants. There was just nothing left. I just knew the fucking problem was me. And then my head went, well, everyone's better off without you. End your life. And I remember getting on my wife's epilepsy pill because she suffers with epilepsy, and I'm piling them all up and I'm writing her a letter. And I'm just thinking, I'm fucking done. I'm bawling my eyes out writing this letter. And I remember my head, something popped into my head, and it was my sister. And I remember my sister 3 months prior, before COVID happened, I was round at a family do, and my family are all addicts, they're all mental, right? It's ba 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 ba, everyone's a part of it. And all of a sudden, my sister was sitting in the corner and she was quite quiet. And I went over to her, I said, "What's up with you, sis? You all right?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just watching." I said, what's up with you?" She goes, "Nothing, I'm just watching." I said, "How you been?" She goes, "Yeah, I've been all right. Um, I've got involved in recovery now. I'm part of AA." She said, "And I've been practicing this stuff and it's really helping me." And as soon as she said that, I was like, "Yeah, fuck that." And I walked away. But what I remembered was the fact that she had peace and she said AA. But I didn't have an alcohol problem. I had a cocaine problem, right? So what popped into my head is to reach out to Cocaine Anonymous. So I went onto Facebook and I typed in CA and I put up a message and I was completely honest for the first time in my life. I said, "Look, I'm fucking dying here. I need help. I'm literally about to commit suicide because I don't know what to do." And that was the hardest thing that I had to do was ask for help. I was riddled with pride and I just had to ask for help. And the thing I love about this fellowship is it's fucking proactive. I was bombarded with messages from hundreds and hundreds of members within an hour window of Zoom meetings that have already been created in 3 days during COVID. Meeting tonight, meeting here, meeting there, meeting there. I got a sponsor. I've got 12 years. I've got 15 years. I got this. And some guy connected with me and he said, "I'm going on this meeting tonight. Do you fancy coming along?" And I said, "Will it help me?" And he said, "Yes, I promise you it will help you, but you got to listen." I said, "Okay, I'll go along." But it gets to about 12 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm starting to feel all right now. And I thought, yeah, fuck that. I ain't going to that meeting. I don't need it. I'm all right. Um, Not remembering that 3 hours ago I wanted to kill myself. It's gone. I'm okay now. I'm fine. I can do it my way. But this guy, he texted me about 5 o'clock and he said, "You coming on that meeting?" "I'm coming along." And I thought he's going to think I'm a bit of a dickhead if I don't go along because I said I would. So I just went along, and I jumped on the meeting, as I said, and I've got my cap on. I think, look at this fucking shit. Leave off. Leave off. We are happy, joyous, and free. Fuck off. Because I was miserable and I wanted you fucking not to be too. If I'm honest with you, that's the truth. That's how I felt. And I'm hearing you guys share and I'm just not listening. I'm just thinking, no, it's different for me. He's heroin addict. This one's that. This one's that. But like I said, I was thrown in during COVID, and I had nothing better to do. My wife fucking hated me. She's downstairs not talking to me. None of me mates. I've burnt all my bridges. I've got no calls. I've got no one but you lot showing me love on a meeting every week, every day. Sorry, twice a day, 6 days a week. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And then all of a sudden, after a month, I heard this guy, and he was a heroin and crack user, nothing like me, completely different. Injecting himself in the groin with heroin, all that sort of stuff. Robbing out of fucking shops and bits and pieces like that. And I'm listening to this guy, and I didn't identify with anything that he said, but I identified with everything that he felt. And what he said to me is that it's life or death. And if you don't get off this meeting and grab a sponsor, you will likely die. And I thought, right, okay. So I called this guy up after the meeting and I said, "What's this sponsorship stuff about?" And he said, "Look, it's someone that's going to help you go through these 12 steps. That's what helps you to recover from this. This is how people are getting years sobriety." And I said, "Okay." I said, "What have I got to do?" He said, "You got to ask someone." I said, "Well, will you be my sponsor then?" And he said, "I'm not available, but I've got a geezer that I work with that you might want to have a chat with." And he gave me this geezer's number. So I'm just check the time. And I remember speaking to this guy, and I got that same message again. And he was on the other end of the phone, and he was speaking. He told me that he had a carrier bag and he was homeless when he went to his first meeting. And this nutty geezer that I just heard share had told him to meet him at the phone box the next day in the morning at 7 o'clock. And he rocks up with two-step garage hanging out the fucking windows, and he kidnaps him and he takes him back to his house and he smashed him through the work, and he lent him £1,000 to get his first van. And he's got a business and he's got 3 kids and he's got a missus that he met in recovery, and he's got everything that I wanted: the picket fence, being a father, carrying himself well. And he sounded so fucking peaceful on the phone. And my experience is, look, before I come in, I got periods of sobriety on my own. I could do that. I wasn't every single day, all right? But when I didn't use, I wanted to fucking kill myself. Like, I mean, it's like an elastic band. I'd like sober up, and for a couple of days, I'd be all right. And it's like an elastic band's around my head, and I want to fucking kill people after 3 days. I become very, very angry when I ain't used for a couple of days. And what I didn't realize is that that's me untreated. I'm untreated. I have to be treated through the 12 steps and the practices that we do here. So he started out telling me I had to do some stuff. And he said, you're going to have to write a gratitude. This is what I do, he said. I write a gratitude list every day, 10 and 5. He said, prayer, meditation. He said, ring 2 people throughout the day. He wants me to go to 6 meetings a week because we're on Zoom now. And he wanted me to give 1 day a week to my wife because my family lost me to addiction. He didn't want them to lose me to recovery too. And I agreed to that. And the whole way through, and if anyone else is identifying with this that's going through the steps, the whole way through and every suggestion that he said, my head would second guess everything that he said. Every single thing. Does that really work? Does he really know what he's talking about? Is he trying to sell me on saying, is he this? And my mind was trying to pull me out the whole time. It was convincing me that he was a liar. He may not be right. Might tell people about your stuff. And the thing was, the more I put in the action, the more I was proven wrong. And the more I was proven wrong, the softer I became. And the softer I became, the more I trusted him. And I needed that to happen because I wouldn't share my stuff with anyone that I don't trust. I didn't trust anyone in life, not even my wife. Not even my wife. I didn't trust anyone. I had separate bank accounts and stuff in case she left me. I had an escape plan because everyone's going to leave me eventually. I didn't trust anyone. And this is the first guy that I trusted in years of my life, you know. And he said to me, look, if you do what I do, you will recover. He said, I'm 7 years. At the time he was. My sponsor's 11 years. His sponsor's 30 odd years. He said, we all do exactly the same thing. I said, I'll keep doing it then. And I did. And I remember going for a week of doing this stuff. And then I started getting smashed through the book straight away after a week. I was told a week to highlight it, which I did the normal thing. I left it 4 days and then got all unmanageable for about 3 days afterwards because he was going to bin me off. And then, he took me through step one. And that was a big process for me because what I'd been telling myself for many, many years is that there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. Why do I keep doing this? And then there it was. Yeah, there is fucking something wrong with you, Dan. You got a threefold illness. This is why you keep going. You got an obsession that will pull you out the door every single time. You drink and use, you can't stop. And it all centers from you. You're fucking sick, Dan. Sick as fuck. You think sick, you act sick, you are sick, mate. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat you through this stuff. And now I'm going to talk about the solution. God, oh, fuck that. You ain't talking about God. Oh, here we go. I knew it was this. Going to get me into the church and all that. And he said to me, no, he said, look, he said, you don't have to believe in anything, but you have to be willing to believe in something. And if you're willing to believe and you actively seek it, you will have your own experience. And my experience is I didn't have any definition of God or higher power in recovery for at least a year and 3 months, I think it was. I'm taking people through the work. They're saying that they've got God in their lives and I'm getting fucking resentful, because I didn't feel it. I just felt like I was praying to nothing for a very long time. That's just my journey. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. For me, it was very, very slow. But when it came to me, I could see it littered throughout my recovery. When I was awoken to that, I could see it littered throughout my recovery. And the only way that I can be awakened to that is to align to the thinking and behavior, turn my thinking and behavior over on a daily basis, which I tend to take back by the time I brush my teeth again, but I can turn it over again, and I did that backwards and forwards a lot in the early days. It's not so much and so heavy backwards and forwards now because I've practiced it for many, many years. 4 and 5 for me, game changer. I got to realize that I'm the problem. I got in a bit of self pity about it. I got to share it with another man. He told me it weren't too bad. And I decided that I didn't have any power over that before I was sick, but I can take the pen and I can rewrite the rest of my life if I choose to do so. And I think the amends letters were massive for me as well. I was able to really understand. I don't like, I hear of a lot of other sponsorship lines that I'm not a part of that don't do these letters. And I don't know if I could have truly made an amends if I hadn't have done them. I wouldn't have truly known how these people felt because I just thought I was a bit of a cunt. You know what I mean? But when I look at it, the sleepless nights, my mum being worried for her life, worried for my life. I mean, my wife going through stuff on her own. My wife had 11 miscarriages. Yeah, we're trying for children for years. She had 11 miscarriages. I pretty much relapsed off every single one of them. Every single one of them, I made it about me. And I remember coming into recovery and I've gone through the 12 steps. I've had a change of thinking and living. And I'm trying to practice this stuff daily and I'm doing my best and I'm beating myself up when I'm not doing it right. And I've learned that the mistakes that I've made have taught me where I am. I've made a lot of fucking mistakes, but the great thing about it is I'm willing to learn and grow from them. You're not going to make mistakes in here. Life isn't always wonderful in recovery. I've had some really fantastic times in here. I've shared dance floors with fucking Ash at conventions. I've been on a dance floor in Portugal with 2,000 addicts listening to house, and I thought I was on ecstasy. I felt that much love in the room. I felt just lit up with it. And I remember being in Portugal for 3 years, and I sat there on the beach with a fellow that hadn't seen me for a year at the last convention. And he said, "How you doing, Dan?" And I said, "Mate, I'm telling you what, I'm the happiest I've ever been." I ended up finding a job about 18 months into recovery that was a six-figure salary. They flew me all around the world. I got to visit places. It was amazing. And then I was able to go to, my wife ended up, I came into recovery. I was going to buy a BMW one day on an instinct. And I thought, who are you to buy a BMW when your wife wants a kid? I invested in IVF. And on the last try, we ended up having a baby. I've got a 2-year-old girl downstairs called Khaleesi. But be careful what you pray for. She argued with me for fucking half hour yesterday because I wanted to help her put a jacket on. So, you got to be careful for the things you pray for as well. They don't take them back at the clinic, see? But also 3 months, I remember speaking to this guy and he said to me, I said, "I'm waiting for it all to go wrong." And he said to me, "Dan, enjoy it while it lasts." And I did for the next month or so. And then I remember going to London and I was going to tell my family that Lou was pregnant with Khaleesi and the family were all lit up about it. And I got a phone call that morning and my dad had passed away from this illness. And I remember then feeling my whole life had tumbled down because I stopped speaking to him 3 months before. And if I'm honest with you, I really wanted to leave recovery at that time. I was so stuck in self about it. I didn't want to do this stuff. I was fed up with the gratitude list. I was fed up with you lot. I'm fed up with everyone because I was so stuck in self around it. And lucky, this is where I talk about God stepping in because there was another fellow that lost his dad 3 days prior to mine. And I'm seeing him popping up on meetings, sponsoring people. And I'm seeing him doing shares. And what he don't even realise is that today he showed me what I needed to do. He didn't tell me. He showed me. And all these people that I didn't like in this room 3 years ago have become some of my best friends. They called me when that was happening and they pulled me up when I was on my fucking knees. I was getting really unwell. And I'm going and doing these shares through gritted teeth and I'm doing the gratitude list and my sponsor's telling me to send him 2 inventories a day. And I'm thinking, do you not know what I'm fucking going through, mate? But what I've realised now when I come out the other side of it is he kept me here. I would have relapsed. 100%. If I hadn't carried on doing this stuff every single day, I would have relapsed. So good days, bad days. I've just lost that six-figure salary job, started my own business, busted it this year, I'm going into liquidation. I'm having a tough time financially now, but you know one thing that hasn't changed in all this time, good, bad, wrong, right, what's going on? House blows up because of the oven. I still do a gratitude list. I still pray. I still meditate. I still write inventory every single night. I try to do my best. I try to learn from my mistakes. Um, and I try to grow that self-awareness because without that, I'm fucked. You know, and I've built a relationship with my wife where she can tell me and pull me up on my stuff today, and I hold my hands up and I go, all right, most of the time. You know what I mean? And we've both built an open forum and an environment where she can talk to me about her challenges and I can speak to her about mine. And we're not getting defensive or none of that. You know, we can have those conversations today. That's what recovery's done for me. My daughter's never seen me drinking use. She never will if I continue to do this stuff every single day. Um, it's just completely changed everything about me. I was a low-life scumbag. They used to call me the butcher in my local area. I thought it made me sound gangster. It's because I used to nick fucking lamb out of Tesco's, you know what I mean? But I never corrected them. You know, I just, I just took from people as a taker. And now I work with people. I've seen lives unfold. It's not to be missed, honestly. Look, if anyone's new here, um, you don't have to do this stuff. You can continue doing what you're doing. But what I would suggest, if you really want to change your life and your head's telling you not to do it, just jump in, put your hand up. You don't know what sponsor's good for you. You've ended up here, so you don't clearly make very good decisions. So you may as well just put your hand up, take who's going to give it to you, and just ram yourself through that work and see what happens at the other side. That's all I'm saying. Because I did this stuff to prove it didn't work. I'm still here. Somehow you lot kept me in, you know. So, thank you for all the teachers that stuck by me and teach and continue to stick around and pass this stuff on. I owe my life to you lot. God bless, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.